Emma Clark moved through the crowded diner with practiced grace, balancing a tray stacked with steaming plates. The chatter of customers blended into a low hum, but her co-workers' laughter cut sharper than any knife. Monica and Claire leaned against the counter, smirking as Emma fumbled a napkin. Yet, through the blur of mockery, a quiet presence watched from a corner booth. Daniel Grant, tall and sharply dressed, observed her with an unusual attentiveness, as though seeing something invisible to the world. Emma paused for a moment, catching his gaze, and for the first time she felt a flicker of recognition, a hint that her worth might exist outside the diner walls. That evening she left with the sting of ridicule behind her, but carried a tiny ember of hope into the cool night. Emma returned home, her uniform damp with spilled coffee and sweat from a long shift. She set the tray down on her modest kitchen table, staring at the small apartment that felt too quiet, too small. Her reflection in the window showed a tired, unremarkable young woman, brown hair falling into her eyes. But for the first time, she thought of Daniel Grant's gentle smile. Maybe someone had seen her. Maybe someone had noticed her worth. The next morning, Emma Clark returned to the diner with a sense of cautious resolve. She knew the jeers would be waiting. Monica and Claire had already started whispering and giggling as soon as she stepped inside. But today, Emma's shoulders were straighter, her brown hair pulled back neatly, her eyes sharper. Even the regular customers noticed something different, a quiet confidence emerging from someone long underestimated. Daniel Grant entered the diner mid-morning, carrying a briefcase, and his eyes found Emma immediately. He offered a subtle nod of acknowledgement, and for a fleeting moment, she felt seen, not mocked. By late afternoon, the diner buzzed with the usual chaos, plates clattering, coffee machines hissing. But Emma Clark moved through it all with a quiet determination. She served a young couple and smiled genuinely, ignoring the rolling eyes of Monica and Claire behind the counter. Daniel Grant lingered in the corner, observing her every move with admiration. In that moment, Emma realized that dignity wasn't about the approval of others. It was about holding herself with pride, even when no one else did. Evening fell and the diner emptied. Emma Clark leaned against the counter, savoring a brief moment of peace. The laughter of Monica and Claire had faded into the background, replaced by the soft hum of the neon sign outside. Daniel Grant approached quietly, leaving a small envelope on the counter before disappearing into the night. Emma opened it to find a delicate diamond necklace. She touched the sparkling pendant, feeling a surge of warmth and possibility. A small, unexpected gift that hinted at a new chapter waiting just beyond the horizon. The following morning, Emma Clark woke with the necklace glinting softly in her small apartment. She felt a strange mixture of wonder and nervousness. Someone had seen her worth in a way she had never imagined. Later at the diner, Daniel Grant returned, entering quietly, but with a confident presence. He complimented her subtly on how she carried herself, offering her a book he thought she might enjoy. Emma's eyes, brown and bright, widened in surprise. This wasn't mockery. It was genuine attention. For the first time, she realized that someone could value her for her mind, not just her service behind the counter. During a quiet afternoon shift, Daniel Grant visited Emma Clark again. They shared a small conversation about books and dreams, mundane topics, yet layered with unspoken encouragement. Monica and Claire occasionally glanced over, noticing the connection with skepticism. But Emma felt a quiet strength building inside her, a sense that she could exist beyond the ridicule. That simple human acknowledgement, the soft kindness in Daniel's voice, became a lifeline she clung to in the otherwise stormy sea of her diner life. That evening, Emma Clark walked home through golden streets, the necklace catching fading sunlight. Her mind replayed the day, the small, meaningful moments with Daniel Grant, the quiet nods of respect she now felt from a few attentive customers. For the first time, she imagined herself outside the diner, in a world where she might be noticed not for mistakes or awkwardness, but for the intelligence and kindness that had always been her secret strength. The next day, Emma Clark arrived early to the diner, polishing the counter with quiet diligence. Daniel Grant arrived shortly after and slipped her another small gift, this time a handwritten note with words of encouragement. Emma's cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment, but with the thrilling certainty that someone genuinely believed in her. Monica and Claire glanced up, noticing her subtle confidence, but their usual ridicule faltered. It was clear Emma had begun transforming in ways they could not yet understand. As night fell, the diner emptied, leaving only the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the soft clinking of silverware being cleaned. Emma Clark paused to admire the diamond necklace, now a symbol of hope and recognition. Daniel Grant lingered briefly, exchanging a meaningful glance before departing. In the solitude, Emma understood that transformation began not with the opinions of others, but with the belief that she was deserving of respect and care. That evening, for the first time, she felt truly visible, inside and out. Weeks had passed, and Emma Clark found herself adjusting to the subtle confidence Daniel Grant had nurtured in her. One afternoon, a formal invitation arrived at the diner, a gilded envelope announcing a high society gala. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. The weight of possibility settling on her shoulders. Monica and Claire hovered nearby, sneering as they peered over her shoulder. "You?" Claire whispered. Emma's lips pressed into a thin line. She realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to step forward despite it. That evening, Emma Clark sat in her apartment, the invitation clutched in her hand. She tried on a simple dress, smoothing the fabric nervously. Daniel Grant appeared at her door, carrying a small box. Inside was a pair of understated earrings to complement the necklace he had given her. His presence was calm, unwavering, and it reminded her that support could come quietly, without fanfare. She slipped the earrings on, feeling the first thrill of stepping into a world she had only glimpsed from afar. The night of the gala arrived. Emma Clark stepped from a modest taxi into a dazzling world of glittering gowns, polished shoes, and chandeliers that seemed to hang like constellations. She adjusted the diamond necklace Daniel Grant had given her, letting it settle against her collarbone. Monica and Claire appeared at the entrance moments later, their expressions a mixture of shock and incredulity. The whispers began immediately, and Emma realized that the world she had feared could also be a stage upon which she finally shone. Inside the ballroom, laughter and music intertwined in a golden haze. Emma Clark moved gracefully, nodding politely to introductions while keeping her head held high. Daniel Grant remained discreetly near her side, a quiet anchor in a sea of glittering strangers. For the first time, she felt entirely seen. Not as a waitress, not as someone mocked, but as a young woman worthy of attention, respect, and admiration. The transformation wasn't in the gown or the jewelry, it was in her awareness of her own value. As the evening unfolded, Emma Clark danced lightly through conversations, her eyes bright with quiet confidence. Monica and Claire tried to dismiss her with sly remarks, but Emma met their glances with calm composure. Daniel Grant offered a small approving nod, which felt more valuable than the chatter of the crowd. The gala had become her stage, not for vanity, but for the recognition that she had always been capable of stepping into the light. She only needed someone to believe she could. Emma Clark stepped fully into the grand ballroom, the diamond necklace Daniel Grant had given her catching the light like a constellation. Conversations hushed briefly as guests turned to admire her composed presence. She no longer felt like the timid waitress from the diner. She was a young woman who had discovered her own quiet power. Monica, blonde, and Claire, 28, brunette, exchanged uneasy glances, their sneers faltering. Emma realized that recognition from others could never replace the validation she now felt within herself. Emma Clark moved gracefully from group to group, nodding politely, exchanging gentle smiles. Daniel Grant followed discreetly, a reassuring presence. Guests of various ages and social standings whispered among themselves, noticing the young waitress turned gala attendee. Monica and Claire tried to mask their astonishment with shallow chatter, but Emma's poise and warmth were impossible to ignore. In that moment, she understood that elegance was not in the gown or jewelry, but in self-respect and quiet confidence. A spotlight seemed unnecessary. Emma Clark illuminated the room with her newfound presence. Guests paused mid-conversation to glance at the young woman who once carried trays unnoticed, now carrying herself with elegance. Daniel Grant subtly nodded in approval, the sparkle of pride in his eyes mirroring the glitter of her necklace. Monica and Claire exchanged whispered words, their earlier arrogance dissolving into shock and silent respect. Emma realized that true transformation begins with inner belief, not external validation. Emma Clark approached the refreshment table with careful composure, catching the eye of influential guests. Her movements were fluid, self-assured, each gesture deliberate yet natural. Daniel Grant, tall, remained nearby, a quiet anchor in the dazzling chaos. Monica and Claire trailed behind, attempting to appear nonchalant, but their astonishment betrayed them. Emma recognized that the quiet dignity she now carried could outshine even the most ornate jewelry or gown. As the evening reached its peak, Emma Clark felt an unfamiliar but exhilarating freedom. Laughter, music, and sparkling chandeliers surrounded her, yet she stood grounded in her own self-worth. Daniel Grant subtly placed a hand on the back of her chair as they briefly sat, a gesture of quiet encouragement. Monica and Claire retreated to the edge of the room, their earlier mockery dissolved into humbled awe. Emma finally understood the world could no longer define her value. It was hers to claim. Emma Clark moved with composed grace through the gala, her diamond necklace catching every glimmer of light. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, attempted to corner her near the refreshment table, their expressions a mix of smugness and incredulity. "I can't believe you're here," Monica whispered, her voice edged with disbelief. Emma paused, meeting their gaze steadily. She didn't need to speak loud. The quiet confidence radiating from her posture, her calm eyes, and the sparkle of the necklace said it all. The tables had turned. Emma Clark smiled faintly, not with mockery but with gentle assurance. "I'm exactly where I belong," she said softly, letting the words hang between them. Monica and Claire faltered, their previous arrogance dissolving into hesitation. The gala around them continued in glittering oblivion, but for this moment, Emma held the room, not with power over others, but with power over herself. Daniel Grant nodded subtly from across the room, silently affirming her triumph. Guests of various ages paused mid-conversation to watch the subtle confrontation. Emma Clark carried herself with effortless elegance, each gesture deliberate, composed, and commanding attention without a single raised voice. Monica and Claire exchanged anxious glances, realizing their past ridicule had been not just cruel, but short-sighted. The diamond necklace was a symbol, yes, but more importantly, it highlighted the unshakable dignity Emma had cultivated within herself. Emma Clark approached a group of influential guests with calm confidence. Her diamond necklace sparkled under the chandelier lights, but it was her poise, intelligence, and unshakable self-assurance that truly drew attention. Monica and Claire watched silently from a corner, their earlier mockery replaced by admiration, and perhaps a hint of regret. Daniel Grant stood discreetly nearby, a quiet witness to the subtle, undeniable shift in perception. As the evening drew on, Emma Clark finally allowed herself a quiet smile. The gala had been a proving ground, not for vanity, but for the discovery of her own worth. Monica and Claire had been humbled, learning that judgment based on appearances is fleeting, but integrity and quiet strength endure. Daniel Grant nodded as he passed her a small congratulatory gesture, reminding Emma that recognition and encouragement could quietly transform a life. Weeks after the gala, Emma Clark walked into the diner, her posture confident and her expression serene. The space that once felt stifling now seemed familiar, almost welcoming. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, watched quietly as Emma carried herself with quiet authority. Daniel Grant entered shortly after, nodding in approval. Emma realized that the world she had feared could now be navigated with dignity. The small victories, the acknowledgement from Daniel, the subtle respect of her co-workers, had begun to transform her everyday life. A few days later, Emma Clark received a phone call that would change her trajectory. A prestigious local cafe offered her a management position, impressed not only by her work ethic, but also by her grace and confidence. She smiled, glancing down at the diamond necklace Daniel Grant had given her. It was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of belief, encouragement, and the quiet power of kindness. Monica and Claire had no words, realizing that their mockery had been misplaced and their assumptions wrong. Emma Clark walked into the new cafe on her first day as a manager. The space was bright, bustling with energy and possibilities. Daniel Grant had accompanied her for moral support, quietly observing as she greeted staff with calm authority. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, happened to pass by and paused at the window, witnessing Emma in her element, confident, composed, and undeniably capable. The transformation from ridiculed waitress to respected professional was undeniable, and Emma felt the full weight of her own achievement. As Emma Clark settled into her new role, she reflected on how small acts of kindness could ripple into life-changing moments. Daniel Grant had quietly encouraged her, believing in her potential before anyone else did. Even Monica and Claire, who had once mocked her, had learned a lesson about humility and perception. Emma understood now that transformation wasn't just about outward recognition. It was about internal growth, courage, and the belief in one's own worth. By evening, Emma Clark sat alone at the cafe, a cup of tea in hand, the diamond necklace resting softly against her collarbone. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not for the attention or the job, but for the journey she had embraced and the strength she had discovered within herself. Daniel Grant stopped by to offer a quiet smile and a word of encouragement. Monica and Claire observed from afar, having absorbed the lesson that judgment and mockery could never overshadow integrity, resilience, and self-belief. Emma Clark hosted a small charity event in her cafe, inviting underappreciated staff and young women striving for independence. She moved gracefully among the guests, her diamond necklace catching the light as she offered words of encouragement and genuine smiles. Daniel Grant, tall, stood nearby, quietly proud of the woman Emma had become. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, observed from a corner, softened by the authenticity of her actions. Emma had discovered that true empowerment was not just about her own success. It was about lifting others along the way. Emma Clark handed out small gifts and notes of encouragement, each gesture infused with kindness and understanding. The room was filled with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the mocking atmosphere she had endured years earlier. Daniel Grant watched quietly, proud but understated, knowing his role had been a gentle catalyst. Monica and Claire began to smile genuinely, recognizing the authenticity and strength in Emma that had always existed beneath the surface. Later, Emma Clark paused to speak with a young waitress, offering advice drawn from her own journey. She realized that the ridicule she had endured, the small moments of doubt, and the quiet encouragement from Daniel Grant had all shaped her into a mentor, a leader, and a source of inspiration. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, watched quietly, now fully aware that inner strength and kindness could transform even the harshest judgments into humility. As the charity event came to a close, Emma Clark looked around at the smiling faces she had touched. Daniel Grant subtly approached, offering a gentle nod. Monica and Claire quietly congratulated her. No words needed beyond their sincere expressions. Emma had fully embraced the idea that true legacy is not measured by wealth, appearances, or accolades, but by the lives one elevates, the hope one fosters, and the courage one inspires. In the quiet aftermath, Emma Clark adjusted the diamond necklace Daniel Grant had given her one last time, smiling softly. It was never about the jewelry. It was about the recognition, the courage, and the self-belief it represented. Monica, blonde, and Claire, brunette, departed with newfound humility, leaving Emma surrounded by those she had inspired. She had completed her journey from overlooked waitress to confident, empowered woman whose light would continue to touch others for years to come.